Warning, personal opinions, satirical comedy, and spoilers.
And this video is brought to you in support of TeamSeas. Tune in after the review to see how you can help make the sea a better, less polluted place. Hello everybody, I'm WHYBOY and this is NERO.
Hey.
Hey, you know what, NERO?
What's up?
We got a Scooby movie.
Of course we do.
It's another crossover one.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but this one's got Courage the Cowardly Dog in it.
An IP that's been so irrelevant. Look, I like Courage. I grew up with it, but let's be honest.
It is pretty irrelevant nowadays, but now it's back to get a revitalization. As we've heard from some news sources that this was supposed to be a Guess Who Scooby-Doo episode.
You never would have guessed with how well-paced it is.
Exactly, it doesn't drag in any places.
Except in all these places.
Exactly, so straight out of nowhere, Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. It just flows off the tongue right there.
I will say though, going into the visuals, yeah, the coloration is vastly improved from the last film where everything looked like it was just washed out. CGI is still awful, but at this point it's not even a Scooby-Doo thing. That's a Warner Brothers thing.
I don't know what you're talking about, Nero. That CGI corner was beautiful how they just pushed it around and just sort of wiggled.
Yeah, it's on par with the CGI bugs.
Exactly, it's beautiful.
I will say, the cold opening heist with the bank teller as the clown, that clown had a really dope design.
He really did.
Like a legit, oh man, that's a creepy looking Scooby-Doo monster. And much like the Luna Ghost, wasted.
He at least did come back for that funny joke with him and everything.
We're wasting my time with just cash. Okay, give it here anyway, weird clown. Now beat it. Easy come, easy go.
He was hilarious.
Yes.
Okay, so the basic plot is...
It's the story of Courage and Scooby meeting together in nowhere to have a mystery with a bunch of cicadas and a weird meteorite in the ground and just kooky Courage the Cowardly Dog style monsters chasing after them.
Yeah, you can't really talk about the plot because the plot's just sort of crap. It's very much just... It's a Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, more or less, that just happens to have Mystery Inc. in it.
Yeah, what's the only major thing that is connecting them is just the happenstance of what sets up the whole story, which is basically Courage and Scooby both hear a weird noise that's going on that only dogs can hear, and that draws them together, which then draws the Scooby gang together with Muriel and Eustace, so they can all just quote-unquote solve a mystery together.
I just realized... Do they only use the hearing sound in the opening act and then in the closing act of the film?
Yeah, for the dog specifically, they only use those 2 times. This thing to basically just lead them towards the source of it, which the source was directly underneath the farmhouse.
Yeah, I mean, the film basically works as a retcon to the Courage the Cowardly Dog show, where it explains that the meteorite is single-handedly responsible for all the weirdness in nowhere. LeQuack and Cats are fine. You know, they only show up at the very, very end during, the wrap-up. It turns out that, of course, you took 2 of the most popular antagonists of the, Courage series, made them the main villains of it, where they wanted to steal the meteorite so they could rob people of their money. It's about as accurate as a Scooby-Doo plot as any other.
Yeah, very true. And it's about as expected as you can get for a Courage the Cowardly Dog crossover anyways.
Can we address that, again, Scooby-Doo movies are falling into a territory of we gotta do gimmicks? Velma, she can't grasp basic riddles. Daphne, they just couldn't decide on what her gimmick was, so she just kind of does... There's 2 things where it's croquet mallet in one shot, I put nitro boosters on the mystery machine. Oh, did I reach my quota for quirkiness for the film? Great, checks in the mail. And Fred is... I'm getting really sick of this, where Fred has, dickery is his character trait now. Where, he doesn't like people driving the van except for him. Or, they open the one door, see a monster, and then he looks at Daphne.
Try again, Daff.
You try again, Fred.
Okay.
or the part where Eustace he scares Shaggy, Scooby, and Courage, and then for some reason Freddy turns around and looks at them and he goes,
Stop messing around, you guys.
Us? Seriously, what? I don't know what the heck the problem is with Freddy at this point. And even with Scooby and Shaggy, I kind of like the whole self-help gimmick.
That's the structure for them. It's just sort of and to lead into the idea, just oh, what is courage? Oh, it's basically confronting your fears despite being afraid. And that's basically the whole moral lesson of the movie, which the movie is very, 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 very blunt about by the end.
It's like a skillet to the skull.
The main issue that I have from the movie is just like all on its own sort of thing, is that it doesn't really have a whole lot to basically warrant an actual movie-length long adventure. It basically gives you all the beats of a traditional Scooby-Doo mystery and all that, but doesn't really interweave it or anything like that. Because at the very end of it, it's not really about the mystery. It's more about the spectacle of all the Courage the Cowardly Dog Easter eggs and such that are just littered about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I think part of that might come into play with the idea that it was supposed to be an episode of Guess Who, Scooby-Doo, and then it pivoted to it needed to be film length.
It's basically a movie that doesn't really have a cohesiveness in terms of just like movie lengths, because it just stretches itself too far out. Because it has the simple beats and all that, mystery setup, the clues are shown to us and everything like that, but then there's just such long draws in terms of the in-between points, it just starts to drag a lot of the ways.
The multiple chase sequences, you have Muriel constantly stopping to tell riddles, you have Eustace break out into a Straight Outta Compton satire, you have Eustace doing the mask booga 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 gag 4 times, that egregiously long animated opening. How'd you describe to where you're like, why a carnival theme? They don't even go to a carnival.
Yeah, exactly. It just sort of like, the movie's just going, fades to black, and then it starts the carnival intro. Which is unfortunate because I think, like, removing my own personal feeling towards it, there is a lot of effort put into this one in comparison to all the other movies that we did see in the past. There is experimentation in the animation, there is a lot of fun Easter eggs, and there is a lot of great interaction between the Scooby Gang and the Courage the Cowardly Dog Gang. It's just that it's just too slow to basically make it engaging. But I think there is another elephant in the room that we do have to talk about, and I think that sort of leads to the idea, just who's this movie really better for?
Just Courage.
The Courage fans.
It's clearly like a celebration of, hey, remember this IP that we just completely buried? Yeah, here you go.
Because for Courage and Muriel in this movie, it is a wonderful movie for them, as they are able to show off so many of their positive personalities and traits. Like, Muriel comes off so adorably sweet throughout the entire thing, which leaves you an unfortunate sort of truth that Muriel's voice actor unfortunately passed away before the movie actually came out.
And she did such a solid performance. And she's one of the few that returned, I think, her and Courage, because I know Eustace had 2 previous voice performers. They both passed away. And I think the only other 2 that came back were Katz and LaQuack.
Like you said, this is basically more just a Courage the Cowardly Dog special, basically just to celebrate everything weird and kooky about him. But that's just sort of where like my major problem is. In a Scooby-Doo crossover and all that, crossover is already just there. They need to actually work together, crossover, just so that both halves are strong. Because if one half is weaker than the other, it basically makes the movie just unbalanced. If the full cast can't be solid, then it's just going to fall apart. It's just worse here because you basically end up with Scooby and the gang literally in a hole in the ground, just so that it can be written out of the finale.
I can't look. Whoa.
You're fucking worthless!
Can we talk about the elephant in the room?
So what's the elephant in the room?
I simply hate this movie, simply on the grounds of, so you could have a meteorite that results in all manners of weirdness, from like the space squids and the Fred and the tree and all that other nonsense. That's all well and good, we could have that. We were not allowed to have supernatural elements in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. We were not allowed to have supernatural elements in Return to Zombie Island. We get to this one, it's okay.
It's okay now, it's fine.
Even the last one we did, the Sword in the Scoob, time travel's a no-go, but like Daphne turning into like a NES caricature. I hate this.
Yeah, that we could have all those things, because we can just have fun with them and all that, but we just choose to not have them in those movies. It is just incredibly frustrating to see, because it does limit themselves on terms of variety when it comes to these movies, as it basically just results in the same plot happening over and over again.
So I think like the big summation is, was this a lame crossover?
I do think it's a lame crossover for us. I do see in a lot of other fans and such how much they really just enjoyed it for just the fun spectacle of it. But I feel for me that is just sort of all of it is. It's a really fun spectacle. After a while, the spectacle nature just sort of wears out its welcome. A Scooby-Doo crossover needs to show that both halves of the crossover can come together and become a perfectly solid whole. It's not as bad as I would say as other crossovers have been, but I do feel it's not as solid as it could have been. With the only major thing being like, it needs to shave off the fat to basically have that solid core that is still visible within this movie, because there is passion here.
It kind of shows me that with the idea of doing the crossovers now, I'm just kind of played out with it. I kind of just want a Scooby-Doo movie that's just a fun mystery again, because it feels like we haven't gotten one in a good long while.
Which is disappointing. If we could finally get back to that, like, I would be very appreciative of that.
Just one. You make 2 movies a year, maybe make one the experimental film that does whatever, and then maybe make one just sort of a traditional.
Make the experimental film where it's actually good. That would be a good experiment.
Oh,
Craziness! Well, that was disappointing, but you know what else is disappointing? Pollution and plastic waste in the seas. So ToonGrin has decided to join the TeamSeas initiative to clean up the seas, spearheaded by the brains behind Team Trees, Mr. Beast and Mark Rober, that altogether raised over $20 million to plant 20 million trees. They're back with a loftier goal to raise $30 million to remove 30 million pounds of plastic waste from our seas. That's a lot of plastic out of the oceans. And like with Team Trees, we have the power to make it happen. By just donating $1, TeamSeas partners have pledged to remove 1 pound of plastic trash from the water. So for example, if ToonGrin donates $1,000, then TeamSeas will pledge to remove 1,000 pounds worth of trash. If you'd like to donate to the cause, go to the website TeamSeas.org and leave your donation there. But if you're unable to due to your financial situation, then don't fret. Just helping to spread hashtag TeamSeas across social media will help immensely, keeping it going till we reach our goal by the end of 2021. These last years have been tough for all of us, but together we can come together and make the world an amazing place. So again, if you're at all interested in joining TeamSeas, head to the link teamseas.org below and join the cause. That's all for now, folks. Thanks for watching, and as always, be sure to tune in to ToonGrin.